As y'all look at these two $10 bills, you would know something different between these two. Even though they have the same face on the bill, right? One of them is big and one of them is small, right? But from a far away distance, right, they look alike, right? But when you move the counterfeit $10 bill forward, right, even though it has the same face on the bill, right, at the bottom, right, is a copy, right? So even though in a far away distance, right, you might look real, you may relate to people, right? But what good in you putting up that illusion, right? But in your heart, that's not who you are. Welcome to another episode of Hard Revelation Confessions. Today's topic is going to be about counterfeit personalities. When we are born, we think that we are free, but really, we're not free because longer you are a American citizen, longer you have a social security number, you belong to the government until the day you live, until the day you die. But out in the world, it is a struggle day by day to just be you and just be real. Because this life that we are living in is not our own. You know, everything in life is engineered by something or someone. The reason why, we get sent to school is to become smart and to become intelligent. So before we go to school, you know, we don't we don't learn, we don't know anything. But as we go in school, as we move from grade after grade, right, our knowledge will improve. But most of that knowledge that they telling us isn't true. Most of that knowledge about our history is never revealed to us. I remember back in school around Black History Month, right? You know, we used to look at the movie Roots, right? We looked at the first Roots about Kuta Kinte, right? How he was an African, he was freed at first, and how his people got enslaved, by the Europeans, right? But it's one part in history that they never tell us. They never told us how our own people, how our own kings sold us out by trading tobacco and guns, right? See, if our people would have stood up for us, right, and fought back. You know what I'm saying? Because we already was strong warriors. We already was fighters, right? We already was skilled in combat, right? Because our people didn't stand up for us, right? And they sold us out for cheap, right? That's how all of us end up in slavery, right? And when you work on a 9 to 5, right, before you get hired, they give you a lot of rules and regulations to read and to go all over it, right? And and also too, you when you start a new job, you can't just wear whatever you want to wear. They give you a uniform so you can look like everybody else, And I noticed too in these organizations, right? We was taught to be, you know, nice to the customer and everything, right? But it's nothing wrong with being nice to the customer, right? You know, we have to already have it in us. They shouldn't tell us to, you know, respect the customer. But like some of these customers, right, know that, you know, we're not real, we're fake, so they're gonna try to tease us and taunt us and everything and try to get us upset. So we just have to be real and we have to be honest with ourselves and treat people how we want to be treated and talk to people how we want to be talked to. You know, as a man in this world, you know, you strive to be positive, you know, you work hard, you have a good life, right? And you got haters outside that will despise you, and call you out of your name, you know. They will actually call you a homosexual because you making good decisions with your life, right? They think by you being a man, you gotta get in trouble. You gotta just chase women all the time. You gotta just do drugs. But as a man is not all about being that, right? Uh, Being a man is about surviving and providing all your needs and working hard and having self control. And some of these guys out here, they think about, you know, about, you know, how many women they can have, and how many women they can sleep with. Just because you have a woman, don't make you a man, and also as a man, you shouldn't be comfortable on having a woman because it's so much competition out there. You're not the only man on the earth. You're not the only man that woman been with. She been with multiple guys, before she came with you. And I don't know if y'all believe in this, soul ties, right? Have you ever had a woman, right? She get upset with you, right? And she get mad because you're not helping her, right? And she's going behind your back, talking to an ex about you, right? And then they already have a strong connection, right? They already have a strong bond, right? So she talked to you, talk about you, right, to an ex behind your back, right? And they end up, since they bond is so tight, since she still had that soul tie, right? She go behind your back, right, and have an affair with the guy, even though you haven't seen it, right? But your intuitions is telling you that, oh, she's cheating because she's not calling me, she's not spending time with me anymore. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes our intuition, what I'm saying, can enlighten us, what I'm saying, that can remove the blinds off our eyes so we can see what is really, going on out here. You know what I'm saying? And everything in this world is manufactured, manufactured. You know what I'm saying? I was looking at anything about Nitty Vanilli, and there was an old group, back in the day, right? And they made a lot of, hits, right? And even though if you have with the group, even though they had the looks, they can dance, right? But they got caught up in a scandal because they were saying that all the vocals that they sung in their songs wasn't them singing. So, but basically, right, it really wasn't their fault because the record industry made that group. They made that group. They made the group how they want the group to be like. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But when the truth came out, right, everybody, looked at them like they was, the frauds. But it was really the music industry. You know what I'm saying? And you just have to out here, you know, in these organizations, right? You know, you just have to like, be who they want you to be so you can make money. You know what I'm saying? But even though you try to be how they want you to be, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be hard to connect with the people. You know, people will sense that you are fake, that you are a fraud, right? So you have to just be real with them and be real with yourself. Don't be counterfeit. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because if you out here talking like everybody else, right? How can you relate to people? It's just like me. I'm going around rich people, right? And I'm poor, right? And I tell the rich people about my struggle, right? They're not gonna understand my struggle because when they was born in this world, they already had a silver spoon in their mouths. So they're not gonna understand me. But if I go around people who are in impoverished conditions, right, they gonna understand me because I can relate to them. You know what I'm saying? So to reach people, you have to be real.